My name is Jenny and I'm a writer, I'm a research student, I'm a tutor, and most importantly, I am obsessed with reading books. I decided to set myself a challenge in 2023 to read as many books as I could, at least 100 books across a broad range of genres. And I thought it would be interesting to record that reading and share that with yourselves. So the first video I'm going to make live is a good old-fashioned haul video. I thought it would be useful to give you an idea of the sorts of things that I like to read and whether you'd like me to review them. As always, I'd be really interested in knowing whether you've read any of these books and what your thoughts are on them, and whether you have any suggestions for books that I can read based on these sort of books that I've been picking up. So far in January, I've been doing really well. I've read about 12 books in total, and the next few videos that I'm going to be doing are going to be reviews of those books. So I'll be going into a bit more detail in the books that I've been reading in that time. The Island of Dr. Moreau. This is a book that I picked up last year. I have a real interest in Gothic literary fiction, and this one really caught my eye. The blurb says that it's from the New York's best-selling author of Mexican Gothic and Velvet Was the Night. I also really enjoyed Mexican Gothic. It's a dreamy reimagining of the island of Dr. Moreau set against the backdrop of 19th century Mexico. Carlotta Moreau, a young woman growing up in a distant and luxuriant estate, safe from the conflict and strife of the Yucatan Peninsula, the only daughter of either a genius or a madman. So that drew me in straight away, and it's got a really lovely cover as well. Secondly, I do like a good thriller from time to time, so I picked up One of the Girls by Lucy Clarke. I'd really enjoyed her previous book, The Castaways, and thought that it might be worth giving this one a go. It says on the back, we are all dying for a holiday, a beautiful remote island, blood orange sunsets, towering clifftop views, and a building swell of lies between friends, but who would kill for it? Really intriguing. The next book is R.C. Sherriff, the Hopkins manuscript. This is actually one that was reviewed and recommended on Jen Campbell's BookTube channel, and I thought that it sounded really interesting. It's a speculative piece of fiction. And it's all about what would happen if the moon crashed into the land. Retired teacher Edgar Hopkins lives for the thrill of winning poultry prizes, but his narrow world is shattered when he learns that the moon is about to come crashing into the earth with apocalyptic consequences. The manuscript he leaves behind will be a testament to his growing humanity and to how one English village tried to survive the end of the world. I do really like dystopian fiction, and I think that this is going to itch a scratch that I'm looking for at the beginning of the year. The next book that I'll be looking at is one that I've seen doing the rounds a lot on YouTube, and that is The Discomfort of Evening. This really intrigued me. I think, again, it has a beautiful cover, and it sounds just really interesting. 10-year-old Jazz has a unique way of experiencing her universe. The feel of udder ointment on her skin as protection against harsh farmyard winters, the texture of green warts. Well, it mentions cow udders. That has me intrigued. It's a bit of a strange description on the back, but it comes from the winner of the International Booker Prize from 2020, and I've heard really good things about this book, so I'm really looking forward to getting stuck in with it. This is another book that really intrigued me, and how could you not buy Nothing to See Here with that cover? I mean, it's just fantastic. The blurb says, Lillian and Madison were unlike roommates and yet inseparable friends at their boarding school, but they've barely spoken since. Until now, when Lillian gets a letter from Madison pleading for her help. Madison's twin stepkids are moving in with her family and she wants Lillian to be their carer. However, there's a catch. The twins spontaneously combust when they get agitated. Well, I do like a bit of speculative fiction, and that does sound quite interesting, some magic realism. It's by Kevin Wilson. It's not a writer that I've read before, but I'm looking forward to finding out about the spontaneously combusting twins. This is another book that I've been seeing all over the internet, by Claudia Pinheiro, Eleanor Knows. This is quite a short book, which is always a nice read, particularly at the beginning of the year. It's about 145 odd pages long. The blurb says, when Rita's body is found hanging in the belfry of the church, she devotes herself to the investigation is swiftly closed, but her mother, Eleanor, refuses to accept the police's version of what happened, and despite the physical limitations imposed by her illness, she embarks on a journey to call in an old debt. I've heard this is one of the most amazing books and one of the strongest books that came out last year, so I'm really looking forward to finding out what all the fuss is about. Eleanor knows. When I was in Waterstones last week, I picked up a few books on offer, and this was one of them. It's called The Promise, and it's by Damon Galgut, and the blurb says, a family in crisis, a promise unfulfilled. On a farm outside Pretoria, the Swarts are gathering for Ma's funeral. The younger generation, Antor and Amor, detest everything the family stands for, not least their treatment of the black woman who has worked for them for her whole life. Salome was to be given her own house, but her own land, but yet somehow the vow is carefully ignored. So that sounds quite interesting and quite different from some of the other books that I've picked up so far. If you do enjoy booktube channels, you can't have avoided Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason. This is another book that has been really highly recommended across the internet. Another one that I picked up in the Waterstone sale. Other bookshops are available. It says from The Guardian, the novel of the year. Everyone tells Martha Friel that she is clever and beautiful, a brilliant writer who has loved every day of her adult life by one man, her Patrick husband. So why is everything broken? Maybe Martha is just someone who finds it harder to be alive than most people, or maybe has she long believed there is something wrong with her. I quite like to pick up books and not look too much into what they're actually going to be about, what the plot's about. And I'm really looking forward to finding out what happens in Sorrow and Bliss and why it's had such a lot of positive feedback. Another short book and another strange dystopian landscape to explore. This is The Beauty by Elia Whitley. A dark and brutal vision of the future. This is not a tale for the faint of heart. To start, there will be love. The word was dead. Then it rose from under the earth, took form, came to us and demanded our attention. In the Valley of the Rocks, Nate is a storyteller, the voice and memory of the group. Through the nights beyond women, William leads with youth and strength. So it's how men can achieve a world without women. It sounds quite interesting, and I've heard again some quite interesting feedback about this and the themes. It sounds quite dark, quite dystopian, exactly the kind of book that I like to pick up, particularly in the winter. This was a bit of a bonus book that I picked up at Waterstones. It was their Book of the Month, Notes on an Execution by Dania Kafka. Apologies there. And I don't know, again, much about it, but I'm looking forward to reading it. Ansel Packett is scheduled to die in 12 hours, but this is not his story. Ansel doesn't want to die. He wants to be celebrated, understood. Yet now he awaits the same fate he forced on those girls years ago. So it sounds again like a bit of a thriller, quite a dark, adventurous ride. So I'm quite looking forward to reading that. I think the fox on the cover sold it to me as well. It just really intrigued me when I saw it in the shops. Next, we have a few poetry anthologies that I've picked up. One is She Had Some Horses by Joy Harjo. I don't know much about this. I do try and read quite a lot of poetry. I'm a poet primarily. My PhD research is around poetry and traumascapes. So I do pick up quite a few collections. And so I'm looking forward to reading this. It says it was first published in 1983 and is now considered a classic. It's a powerful exploration of womanhood's most intimate moments. It speaks of women's despair, of their imprisonment and the ruin at hands of men and society, but also of their awakening power and love. So that sounds really fantastic. And she was United States Poet Laureate as well in the last decade. So I'm hoping for good stuff. This anthology, Spoon River, was one that was recommended to me by one of my PhD supervisors. And it does sound really quite interesting. Again, it's not a new collection. It's written by the American poet Edgar Lee Masters, where he created a series of compelling free verse monologues in which former citizens of a mythical Midwestern town speak touchingly from the grave of the thwarted hopes and dreams of their lives. And it was first published in 1915, so I'm really looking forward to reading this. I found last year I read rather more books about cemeteries than I was expecting, and so how could I resist a collection of poems about gravestones in a cemetery in a mythical Midwestern town, each with their own story and their own conversation? There's something in that reminds me about Lincoln in the Bardo, so I was drawn to that straight away. Finally, in terms of poem, I have this collection by Tim Liardet, which is called Priest's Gear. And the reason this collection was recommended to me is one of the areas that I'm writing about is Morecambe Bay. And this is a collection of poems that explore the Morecambe Bay Cockling tragedy. And so it's one that I'm really interested in reading. I can't wait to find out more, because I think it's really going to be interesting to see how the poet talks about that awful tragedy, but also the style of the writing and whether it's something that can actually inform my own studies in this area. Finally, I've set myself a bit of a challenge this year as well to read some of the books that have been given to me by friends or lent to me by friends, in the aims that I can get them safely back to them before the end of the year. So this month I actually read a book called The Sin Eater by Megan Campisi, which is one that I'm going to be reviewing in one of my next videos, and I really enjoyed that. But the next book I'm going to be reading is by Kamila Shamsie, who I'm sure you've heard of, called Burnt Shadows. And this is one that I haven't read. I have read Kamila Shamsie before, and I've really loved her writing. August the 9th, 1945, Nagasaki. Hiroko Tanaki steps onto her veranda, wrapped in a kimono with 3 black cranes swooping across the back. She is 21 and on the verge of marrying Conrad Wise. In a split second, the world turns white. In the numbing aftermath of a bomb that obliterates everything she has known, all that remains are the bird-shaped burns on her back, an indelible reminder of the world that she has lost. Actually, that sounds amazing. I really like, as I say, books about historical tragedy, and she is just a fantastic writer. So I'm really looking forward to getting to grips with that, and rereading the back of that's made me really excited. So, as I say, in my next video, I'm going to start reviewing in a bit more detail some of the books I've already read this month, and I hope that you find that really interesting. But in the meantime, if you're interested in my reviews, in seeing more book hauls and lots of other content as well, please do like and subscribe. This is a new channel, and I'm hoping that it will be of interest to some of you out there. But thank you very much. Thanks and bye.